Welcome back, America. We're here with our friend, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, President, American Islamic Forum for Democracy, co-founder, Muslim Reform Movement. Zuhdi Jasser, there's not much of a debate in this country over whether or not Iran should have nuclear weapons, but there is a little cabal out there of kind of knuckleheads who say, well, okay, if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, what's the big deal? And anybody who thinks otherwise is a warmonger and wants to drag us into war and so forth and so on. So I wanted you to help us understand the mindset of that regime in Iran and why it is so deadly for them to have a nuclear weapon. What is your thinking on this?
Yeah, you know, Mark, this is so important to understand. These are not just any typical war, rogue country. The Islamists, the Islamic Supreme Council of Iran that took over in 1979, they're the founding fathers of suicide bombing. Hezbollah's first suicide bombing in Lebanon that killed our troops in 1983 ultimately then sprouted suicide bombing across the region with not only Shia side but the Sunni side with al-Qaeda and others. So ultimately, when the president of Iran, whether it was Ahmadinejad or Raisi last year or others, when they start speaking at the General Assembly of the United Nations, they talk about ushering in the 12th Imam. That ushering in of the 12th Imam, Mark, is an end-of-time scenario. It's an eschatology in which Armageddon happens. So ultimately, a country that advocates suicide bombing and fuels the Houthis, fuels Hamas, fuels Hezbollah, every radical actor in the region, as a country would want to commit fratricide because they see their government as God. They see their government as fighting the evils, the Satans, the great Satan and the little Satan of Israel and the great Satan of America. So that bigoted, hateful, anti-Semitic country, if they, as run by the Islamists, if they have a nuclear weapon, will ultimately use it because it's not about like Russia where they had mutually assured destruction and Reagan's peace through strength suppressed them because they didn't want to die. These guys are a death cult. They want to die, so they can't have a nuclear weapon. And Israel has thankfully been leading the charge and not only decimating Hezbollah with pagers in September, killing Nasrallah. President Trump in his first term killed Soleimani and others. So they're on their heels, and we can't let them have a nuclear weapon. Impossible.
What do you say to those, Zuhdi Jasser, who say, well, it's Israel trying to drag us into a war. These warmongers, these neocons trying to drag us into a war. I guess Donald Trump is now a warmonger and a neocon and an Israeli. I don't know. But that said, aren't we really talking about the capacity to destroy some of our cities with intercontinental ballistic missiles? We don't have an Iron Dome like Israel has. We don't really have a system in place to systematically prevent hypersonic or at least intercontinental ballistic missiles from hitting our country. They don't need intercontinental ballistic missiles, which they've developed, to hit Israel. Those are intermediary missiles. These intercontinental ballistic missiles are intended to go 7,000 miles, 12,000 miles, however number of miles they need to go as they fully develop the technology and so forth. Why should we sit back, listen to this cabal who says, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Got the whole future of mankind at stake here, no?
Absolutely. Listen, I was a Navy officer as a doc, and the last thing I want to see is fighting wars, unnecessary wars. But I will tell you, the warmongers are the ones that would allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. The warmongers are the ones that would not actually try to prevent their nuclear armamentation. And that's what Obama was. That's what Biden was. The JCPOA, let me remind you, back from 2016, basically handed them billions that then under Biden, they funneled to Hamas to then basically allow a genocide against Israel, against the Jews, and commit the act of war of October 7. And then Israel has had to protect itself since then because Iran funneled money to Hamas and used that to spark more wars. So ultimately today, President Trump is annihilating Houthis because they are targeting our ships. So I'm sorry, if we sit back, they're going to attack us. We need to prevent wars by doing surgical strikes to prevent nuclear armamentation. And ultimately, their breakout time has decreased because of the Biden fecklessness. And we need to broaden that. And if we get them to the table, which I hope President Trump can do, it's all about disarmamentation, not about handing them money. We need to have maximum pressure, weaken their economy, because ultimately, Mark, the best anti-nuclear program will be to weaken their economy, because the reason the Iranian people are so pro-Trump and pro-America, because they saw their last revolution during the first Trump administration in 2017 happened when the economic spine of Iran was breaking. And now it's going to break again as we reimpose maximum pressure, and it'll allow the revolutions to happen, and we can step back, and just as long as we make sure they don't have nuclear weapons.
We'll be right back.